At every celebration of the Eucharist in the modern Roman Rite, the Roman Missal is placed on the altar. In this video, I will be discussing what this book says about celebrating Mass ad Orientem, with the priest facing away from the people instead of towards them. Orientem 215, quote, "After the prayer over the offerings has been said by the principal celebrant, the concelebrants approach the altar and stand around it, but in such a way that they do not obstruct the execution of the rites, and that the sacred action may be seen clearly by the faithful," unquote. The priests are to position themselves so that the sacred action can be seen clearly by the faithful. If the priest is standing between the chalice and the people will not see the chalice. Here are three other quotes from the Orientem that emphasise the importance of people seeing things. Orientem 307 about candlesticks. Quote, "The faithful may not be impeded from a clear view of what takes place at the altar or what is placed upon it," unquote. The Roman Missal is concerned about candles blocking the view. How much bigger will be the problem of a priest blocking the view? Orientem 311, quote, "Places for the faithful should be arranged with appropriate care so that they are able to participate in the sacred celebrations, duly following them with their eyes and their attention," unquote. Orientem 295 on the sanctuary, quote, "It should, moreover, be large enough to allow the Eucharist to be easily celebrated and seen," unquote. These reflect what is said in Sacrosanctum Concilium, the 1963 document of the Second Vatican Council, with its emphasis on the importance of participation by the people. In number 14 it has, quote, "Mother Church earnestly desires that all the faithful should be led to that fully conscious and active participation in liturgical celebrations which is demanded by the very nature of the liturgy. Such participation by the Christian people, as a chosen race, a royal priesthood, an holy nation, a redeemed people, is their right and duty by reason of their baptism. In the restoration and promotion of the sacred liturgy, this full and active participation by all the people is the aim to be considered before all else," unquote. Being able to see what happens on the altar is an important part of that participation. Orientem 299, quote, "The altar should be built separate from the wall, in such a way that it is possible to walk around it easily, and that Mass can be celebrated at it facing the people, which is desirable wherever possible," unquote. Clearly encouraging Mass facing the people and discouraging ad Orientem. Orientem 303, quote, "In already existing churches, however, where the old altar is so positioned that it makes the people's participation difficult, but cannot be moved without damage to artistic value, another fixed altar, skillfully made and properly dedicated, should be erected, and the sacred rites celebrated on it alone," unquote. Ideally, there should not be an altar positioned against a wall, which, quote, "makes the people's participation difficult," unquote. Why does the Roman Missal make provision for ad Orientem? Why is it permitted? For example, Orientem 277 has, quote, "If the altar is not freestanding, the priest incenses it while walking first to the right-hand side, then to the left," unquote. Orientem 299 and 303 are clear that the altar should be freestanding. But the instructions do not go so far as to say, if the altar is not freestanding, Mass is not to be celebrated. Here are gospel quotes that come to mind. After a woman anoints Jesus with expensive ointment, Mark chapter 14, verses 4 to 5, quote, "Why was the ointment wasted like that? For this ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor," unquote. Matthew 26, verses 8 to 9, "Why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor," unquote. John chapter 12, verse 5, "Why was this ointment not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" unquote. These are ESV translations. There are situations of poverty. There are expenses in operating a parish and diocese. There could be people facing decisions of whether to feed the poor or install a new altar. Install a new altar or repair the roof of the church. Have malnourished seminarians or continue to operate with altars against walls. Where if there were a requirement to install a new altar, the only affordable option would be to close the church, increasing the time people spend walking to Mass. I think this is why ad Orientem remains an option. I think Cardinal Sarah was on the wrong track in 2016 when he encouraged priests to celebrate Mass ad Orientem, quote, "perhaps beginning on the first Sunday of Advent," unquote, in 2016. Clearly Pope Francis did as well, resulting in the press release of, quote, "some clarifications on the celebration of Mass," unquote, of 11 July 2016. It begins, quote, "It would appear opportune to offer clarification in the light of information circulated in the press after a conference held in London a few days ago by Cardinal Sarah," unquote. A quote from it, quote, "Some of his expressions have, however, been incorrectly interpreted, as if they were intended to announce new indications, different to those given so far in the liturgical rules, and in the words of the Pope, regarding celebration facing the people and the ordinary rite of the Mass," unquote. GIRM 299 is still in full force and quoted, including, quote, "The altar should be built separate from the wall in such a way that it is possible to walk around it easily, and that Mass can be celebrated facing the people, which is desirable wherever possible," unquote. It concludes, quote, "All the above was unanimously expressed during a recent audience granted by the Pope to the same Cardinal Prefect of the Congregation for Divine Worship," unquote. This is the most recent clarification on this issue from the highest authority. In January 2026, it is disappointing to me how few videos on YouTube convey what the Roman Missal says about ad Orientem and celebration facing the people. Ad Orientem is strongly discouraged, but it does make provision for it where, unfortunately, quote, "the old altar is so positioned that it makes the people's participation difficult," unquote, as GIRM 303 says. I hope this is helpful, and thank you for your attention.